That was what, John, almost 80,000?
Yes.
And it was mostly used on TVs.
Yep.
They were good ads,
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
I remember, yeah. They were well done.
And we saw a lot of success with that, and particularly here in the North Country. We saw a lot of folks who had never flown before or had never flown out of Ogdensburg before from this immediate area that were coming here to fly based upon that advertising campaign.
Good. Any other questions of Stephanie?
I have a question for Stephanie.
Yes.
Would you please just speak to the 10,000 passenger, you said it's being waived. Could you just give me a quick overview of what that means?
With the federal government, I can't see it.
I know.
With the federal government, a lot of our federal funding is dependent upon the number of in-plane passengers, which means the number of passengers that get on flights here in Ogdensburg. And that is how funding is determined for airports. Your minimum funding right now, minimum, we need 10,000 enplanements annually to qualify for the $1 million Airport Improvement Act, Airport Improvement Fund that we pretty much count on every year for capital projects.
It has restrictions to it.
Yes, it does have a lot of restrictions.
Do we, even in a typical non-COVID year, though, come close to 10,000?
Yes,
We
last
did
year was,
46.
yeah, it wasn't quite that
Okay.
high, but yes, normally we do.
Okay. What would it, just a typical year be for enplanements?
Well, I'll be honest with you, since I've been here, it's been growing steadily.
Okay.
And as I said, we've made that with no problem, and right now we're at about 7,700 roughly at the end of this month, not counting the,
What was 2019 though?
2019 was about 30,000.
Okay, so I'm so sorry, I thought you said 770.
7,000.
Okay, yeah,
700.
I'm off by a zero.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I wish we had that extra zero.
Yeah.
No, I thought you meant like 770. You said it's 7,000.
7,700.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for that.
Okay, I'm sorry if did I misspeak? I'm sorry.
No,
Okay. Any other questions?
All set? Okay.
yes, thank you.
Nicole, you all set?
I'm good, thank you. It is difficult to hear on here. The muffles quite a bit, but I think I understand. What is the Series 1 and Series 2, the blue and the red?
The blue is our essential air service, which is provided through United Airlines.
Stephanie.
Oh, I'm sorry. The blue is United Airlines through our essential air service, and the red represents the passengers for Allegiant Airlines.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? Not, move on to the board activity report.
Yes, for the month of July, we'll just talk about grain. Grain's picked up quite a bit, especially we've gotten quite a bit of inbound shipment of soy hull pellets. For the new members, we handle canola meal, gluten corn meal. The SHP is soy hull pellets. And at times we handle citrus pulp. They're all additives that farmers use for grains and mixes. The real expert on any of that would be Mr. King here. He could tell you a lot more detail than I could as far as how that's all used. But you can see the list on there. It's quite a jump from June, so that throughput always helps generate revenue. So we do get to store it, but when we bring it in, store it, and move it, then we generate income, so that helps the bottom line on the port. As we've been mentioning here, we have a windmill project. We've had 3 vessels come in for the wind turbine project. We will have another ship coming in this weekend with 15 blades. That'll probably be here either tomorrow night or Saturday morning, and that'll be basically an 8 to 12 hour call where we'll be offloading. 15 blades is relatively easy. They're all on top of the deck, and we'll store them. Later in the week, we'll get another ship that will have, with the exception of no windmill blades, it'll have 8 whole wind turbine components. And these wind turbine components they're a 6-piece tower, so that adds a lot more, that's a lot more to take off of the ship. This one will even be bigger than our last one, and that one took 6.5 days to unload. It was one of the bigger ships that we've had, and this one will be along that line too. And hopefully we'll be just as efficient with that. So, and then after that, we expect 2 more ships, one the end of August with blades, and another one the first week of September with blades. And then there may be, we're not sure how they'll store that, there may be something that will bring in auxiliary containers and things later, but that hasn't been nailed down yet. Also at the port in the last month, we've got 2 new road salt contracts. One that'll be bringing in road salt by rail, and we'll unload that, we'll store it, and then we'll ship it out. And then we have another one it's a specialty product where they bring in approximately 20,000 tons of salt. In different batches, we'll mix somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 tons of salt and put an additive in it that allows townships and municipalities to use less salt, and they can use it at lower temperature. And so that's a new product, and it's value added. So instead of just storing the salt and shipping it out, we will take that salt, help with doing the additive, and store that inside, and then we will ship that as needed. But that was something, at least that one wasn't something we budgeted there, so it's an added thing to the port budget. It'll be an added income there, so that was good to hear. And we quoted a couple other projects, one with the railroad for, you've heard about the high water in the Great Lakes, and a lot of companies there's grant money out there to increase and raise shorelines and repair shorelines, and with that, there's a lot of armoring with stone. We've been approached by a couple companies asking us, can we offload it by rail and move it to barge, and then they take it into the Great Lakes, place it, and come back. So that's kind of a new one. Doesn't seem overly complicated. I think the distance might have an effect on whether we get it or not, but we've done that. We'll be waiting to hear if they can use our price and get the contracts. So we've been working on that. I think that's pretty well the main focus of what we're doing down at the port. Anybody, any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
What is in the chart, just SBS and Maxim? What is that?
Okay, Maxim is a company that is out here in the heavy part, and they deal with making explosives for quarries.
Okay.
They have different components that they send out, and then they're mixed at a quarry, and then they use that to break up rock. And then SBS is Seaway Bulk Services. That's an arm of the railroad, and what happens is they bring in fly ash and some other products that they transload from a rail car to a tanker truck or a bulk truck, and we get income because they have to use our scale. So they'll load up, a truck will come across the scale and come back, and then we get a certain amount every time they cross. So when you see SBS on there, that's what that's tied to. think, well, yeah, let's see if there's any others on there that I can,
That's
Base-
helpful. I wasn't sure if it was an abbreviation for a quantity unit. I just wasn't sure, so
no,
that's
that's,
helpful, thanks.
no, good question. That's, really, those are just kind of explaining what those or, you know, what we expected, and if there's charges involved in, and we're counting for those trucks that went across the scale. So we can get an idea of, if the income isn't really great from that, but it's just, it's always something.
Sure, okay, yeah, thank you.
All set, any other questions of Steve? If not, we'll move on to the building occupancy report, John.
Yes, we have 7 buildings in the industrial park. I think there's 11 or 12 freestanding buildings. We own about 7 of them. They're labeled on that drawing over there.
Yeah,
And we're at about 87% occupancy at present. In this building here, the Bridge Administration Building, we're 100% occupied. We're about 29% occupied at the port. We have a lot of warehousing and bulk storage available. And as Stephanie mentioned, we're about 80% or so at the airport. So our rentals are good, and you'll see the occupancy rate go up to about 90% in September for the industrial park. In terms of prospects, there's an agreement on your agenda tonight with a broker that's not a tenant but is in Commerce Park. They own their own building, and that's for 5,000 square feet of space, mostly storage. There's a closeout, I believe, on the agenda for other such matters with Veritas, who had left the building in January but had a 2-year commitment to us, and I think we successfully resolved that. There's a renewal on there for an office rental in this building. I've been working with several new prospects. One out of Belleville that makes equipment to charge Humvees, so they want to be here in some form to meet Buy America requirements. They may use an existing third-party shipper. Eventually they may need a couple of employees to do that. An Ottawa company that I reached out to that does UV COVID lighting to kill coronavirus that I've been working with the state on. Another one out of Iroquois that had a concept for masks that we're wearing today. An Ottawa entrepreneur that recognizes a lot of growth in 5G and may want to do something here in Ardensburg. And they're working with another industry in St. Lawrence County. They're looking at Port Building 4 right now. I wrote a grant for $200,000 through the Upstate Revitalization Initiative. Although the regional council hasn't been meeting, it's filed, and when they do meet, it's there. So, and that's for a match for our Federal Railroad Administration grant for port equipment, which is $800,000 of federal funds. Then we had an inquiry on some of our land out in the Madrid area from a family that was looking to either lease it or purchase it. It's about 45 acres, and it's largely unused by the authority, and I'll wait for some direction on that, what you want to do.
Thank you. Any questions? Anything else, John?
That was the highlights.
No one has any questions for John? If not, let's move on. We have unfinished business.
Mr. Chairman, we're gonna have to put that off till next month. The status, just so you know, the next round of the 2020 grant announcements won't be until late August. So,
This needs to be tabled.
yes, table for that.
Is there a motion to table the unfinished business that's on the agenda?
I'll move that.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, I'm sorry?
Yeah, I just explained this to the new members, why this is
Okay.
in there. Do you want to, would you like me to do that now? Jen and Nicole, we applied for, with our $1 million, Stephanie put together a, kind of a wish list of snow removal equipment to upgrade all of our snow equipment. A lot of what we've got is old equipment and used equipment, and we've been doing fairly well in spite of it, but time has come to have a lot of it replaced. So last year's $1 million was put toward equipment that we need for snow removal. So what you see there is the FAA, we bid this out and it comes up with a number. We submit the number to the FAA and then they look it all over, and then they would provide a grant for that. And I think it comes to what, 1.65? Paul?
No,
Some-
1.0.
65.
65.
Yeah, excuse me.
Put
So
that zero in there.
we've been waiting a month and a half, and we were hoping the timing that we could get this equipment in use by the end of December, but by the time it's built and everything, it looks like it might not be here till the end of the winter, depending on that. So we keep putting this forward, hoping they'll come forward, and it's there. So just give you a background on that. And when you were asking about the $1 million, that's where it is going to be put to use.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
There's a motion on the floor, it's been seconded to table. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That is tabled until September meeting. Move on to general administration. Agenda item A1, approval of supplement number 1 with KBM Analytics Incorporated. Mr. Lawrence?
Yeah, I'll let John, you can take the board through this.
Yep, this is an Ottawa firm. I believe they do a lot of behind-the-scenes security for internet. And they rented an office from us, I think, a year ago. This is a renewal for that office over in building 3, I think it is. Oh, it's 4. And, yep, glad to have them as a tenant. And a lot of these companies that are renting offices from us here in the Bridge Administration Building in the Industrial Park, you know, they're here with hopes that they'll grow and expand and need additional space as time goes on.
Good. Is there a motion to accept?
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Made and seconded. Any further discussion? Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Ms. Terminelli?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Quirk Pickman?
Yes.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Yep. Agenda item A2, approval of lease agreement with A.N. Derringer.
Yes, John worked hard on this one, and I'll let him
This is
take you through it.
This is a new tenant. Ann Derringer's an existing business in Ogdensburg in Commerce Park. We actually sold the building to them several years ago, and I've been working with them. This is basically storage, but it's around 5,000 square feet of space. Helps them to grow, hopefully with personnel as well. And the details are there, so it fills a hole in building forward, and happy that we could accommodate them.
Good. Good. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? None,
I just
Anne
have a
Marie?
question.
Yes.
How do we calculate, do you have a lease cost? How do you determine what each space is going to get for lease?
It's really negotiated. It's based on the age of the building, the condition of the building, quite frankly, you know, the best rate that we can get based on the project. So We're in the $3 to $8 a square foot range. Depends on the building and the company and how long they've been here, a lot of factors.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Nicole?
Nope, that's it, thanks.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Ms. Quirk Pickman?
Yes.
Mr. Coffin,
Yes.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Whitten? Yes. Ms. Terminelli?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Agenda item A3, approval of use permit and Carp Tournament Services LLC. Tomorrow.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, you'll notice in the board read file, we got a letter thanking us for the carp tournament that they had in July, and then with that letter, they asked for, and I didn't really read it in detail, and they asked for permission to use the Wall Street area again, and I thought they were asking for 2021. But they are going to have a tournament September 15th to the 19th of 2020. So I'm bringing another use permit to the board for your approval.
Mr. Lawrence, Bridgeport Authority does not charge for anyone to fish down at that area at the present time, is that correct?
No, we don't charge anybody. The only thing we charge, as you see in there, is just a deposit for a tournament or like. But if people are down there and in that area, they're welcome to fish anytime. There's no stipulation, any kind of, we don't have a fee or anything like that to.
So basically, if someone has to pay a fee, the authority has no discussion of whatever that fee may be. It's done on based, in this case, it would be Carp Tournament Series LLC would determine the fee, correct?
To the fishermen.
Right.
But we don't get in the middle of that. We just let them do however they run their tournament with that. But we don't expect any income or anything. We just kind of do it as a promotional thing. Over the years, we've done the junior carp tournament. We've done other fishing deals. But it mostly is all to the Wall Street area. That's that open, when I say that, that's that open wall area that before you go in the port, we're not allowed anymore to let anybody on the port property to fish.
Okay. Good.
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm sorry if I may.
No?
Typically during fishing tournaments, are there vendors brought in or any additional businesses that are on site as part of the tournament? Like for-profit types of businesses?
I know, I can remember, I think when the junior carp tournament was pretty big, I do remember it almost, I don't know, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago. It was quite busy. I think they had it on Friday and Saturday for the kids, or the up till 18 or whatever. And I do remember, I think there was a few vendors, more like food truck or hot dog or ice cream type of thing, but nobody comes to us to set up, and nothing like beer or cotton candy or any of the things you might see at a fair or anything like that.
Okay, so for instance, if there was a merchandise tent or food truck, they would pay whatever fee is charged, they would pay directly to the carp tournament, and then the insurance for them, like their liability would be
Yeah,
covered through the tournament?
that's a good question. I haven't had anything like that. I know at one time, we'd have a hot dog vendor here in the park, and they might come for a couple days. We really haven't had that as an issue, but it might be something that we need to look at.
Frank, any opinion on that?
I think we've checked in the past with our insurance carrier to make sure that our liability coverage will cover us just in case.
Okay.
Because there's no money transferring hands either way, so we weren't in it for a profit.
So long as it's related to the event.
Yeah, but I think you should check it every year. Our insurance policies change every year.
Yep.
Good, yeah, good. Yes, in the first meeting, you've got our attorney saying something. Pretty
Right.
good. All right. Was a motion made?
No.
No. Motion.
I'll move it.
Second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Ms. Corker Pickman?
Yes.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
Ms. Terminelli?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, agenda item A4, approval of supplemental agreement number 1 with New York State Department of Transportation for the Port of Augsburg Dock Expansion Project, PIN 7935.27.301. Mr. Lawrence.
Hi, well, with your help, I will try to explain this, but back in 2015, 16, we came up with a project for dredging the channel so that we could bring in ships farther in and offload them, and also have more storage area. So we reached out to the Corps of Engineers, we worked with them, and then we came up with doing an expansion project of the dock expansion. And that's adding 550 feet to the dock to the west. And with that, we did receive a grant from the state of New York, the DOT, for $10 million. And we also received, or we haven't received it, but we received the grant. We also have the federal Corps of Engineers providing 65%, which is roughly $4 million toward dredging of the port. As we came up with all the port improvements and everything, the budget on it expanded, the construction costs, and we were looking for additional monies to make that happen, which came close to $9 million was needed to make everything happen. And with the port or the airport expansion, our cash flow and everything didn't allow us to come up with that kind of money. So we've been reaching out over the last, I'd say 2 years, with different entities and hoping we could get some help. We had some movement from New York State back in August of last year announcing some additional monies for the bridge and for the port. And the chairman can elaborate more on how this all came about. But shortly after the COVID pandemic hit, the Army Corps of Engineers asked us to whether we were going to find the money to complete this project. And at that time, and looking at our prospects, I talked to the board, and basically we were saying we don't see a way that we can keep this going. So we went to the Corps of Engineers, and they said, well, what if the Corps was to pay for the whole dredging part of the project? And they said, hold off with your answer. And in the meantime, the chairman was working with different sources for the funding, especially New York State. And the Corps came back and said that they couldn't do it. And but we got Albany and the New York State DOT heard that we'd be losing this money if we didn't come up with that $8 to $9 million. We ended up, they didn't want to see us lose that, so they looked into what they had for grant programs, and basically they came back before our deadline, which was June 26th, and said that they committed to the Army Corps of Engineers, saying they would fund the entire remainder of that project. And what you see before you, the $10 million, covers contingencies and our share of the project. So you'll see it all broken down there, and it brings a total amended amount to $20 million that is coming from the New York State Department of Transportation. Mr. Chairman, would you like to kind of come in here and,
Well, we've been, the board has been working on this for years now. And, I think, this is a project that we didn't think at one time it was gonna happen. We talked about it for quite a few years. And, thanks need to be given first to Senator Schumer and his staff for convincing the Corps of Engineers that this project could go forward if they just gave us a little bit of time. So we need to thank him and his staff. And then we need to thank the Governor Cuomo and his staff at DOT for realizing that this project would not have been done without their support. And they actually came through with even more than we had anticipated because the cost had increased since when we first discussed this project. And with this $20 million that New York State is putting toward this project, and the state sheriff at the dock wall extension, we've already gone through a PLA with an attorney showing that we can save money on this project. And, that's an added bonus. I think will keep local people employed. So between the $20 million at the port and the $19 million on the bridge, that's $39 million that we need to thank our governor and the staff at DOT for putting trust in the Augsburg Bridge and Port Authority. So it's been a long time coming, but in my opinion, the governor and his staff has come through for us, and we certainly appreciate that. Any further questions of myself or Mr. Lawrence? If not, is there a motion?
I would move for acceptance. I'll second it.
Any discussion?
just one thing, you see the bottom line? Currently, this agreement, we were asked to go through and get it approved, but it will go through the Attorney General's office, more for form and function of that, and then the others, it'll end up with the Comptroller's office. And they may come back with some changes or things that may not be significant, but I want to make you aware that something could change out of this, because it isn't, those two entities haven't totally reviewed that, but for the sake of the time frame and everything, it was convenient to have this approved for this board meeting.
Good, thank you. Anything else? Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Mr. Coffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Absolutely.
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
Ms. Terminelli?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Quirk Pickman?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Good, thank you. Long time coming.
I just mentioned, Sam,
Sure.
that this started years ago when Senator Gillibrand came up to a meeting in Messina, and she's the one who actually got the funding for the original core study. And the only reason why I mention it is that she's at the Dubisky Center tomorrow at noon, in case you wanted to go.
Is that right?
Yes.
Well, we can certainly go and thank her. Thank you, John.
You know,
Okay, move on to agenda item A5. Approval of purchase of new deal blend runway de-icer. Lawrence, or,
Stephanie can take this.
okay,
Okay, this is the de-icing chemical that we use for the runways. It's getting close to that time of year again. We're going to have to do our purchases. This is similar to what's been done the last 2 years. I'm asking for approval of up to $25,000 to purchase, and then we'll come back if it's necessary to purchase more throughout the winter season. Last year, we had 4 bags. To explain, it comes in 1-ton bags of de-icer. We had 4 tons left over from the year before. We made 2 purchases of 6 bags at a time. We do it at 6 bags at a time because that is the most cost-effective way with shipping to order them. We ended the year with 2 bags, so we have 2 bags in stock right now. So we did use 14 bags last year through the winter season. We are not permitted to use salt on runways, and so the chemicals that we are allowed to use for de-icing and anti-icing are very limited. This particular chemical I'm finding works very well for de-icing and anti-icing, and with our limited resources up here, it is the most economical and convenient material to use as far as storage and application.
One thing to add here, that the cost of this will be covered under the CARES Act funding. Not that that gives us to go crazy or anything,
Right,
but,
right.
but it is one of relief to know that they'll be able to take care of, or that'll able to take care of us financially.
And the price did not go up this year.
Oh, good. So we have no idea how much we may use, because it depends on icing conditions and timing and flights and everything, right?
That's correct.
I think too, with Stephanie's crew out there, they've got a lot of time under their belt with